You've seen them. Someone walks into a room and you instinctively think that person cannot possibly be that age. Their skin is clear. Their posture is upright. They move with an ease that people half their age have already lost. And you think to yourself, good genes, lucky, different somehow. I need to tell you something that changes that assumption entirely. It's not their genes. Studies on identical twins, people with identical DNA, consistently show that genes account for somewhere between 20 and 40% of how quickly a person ages. The rest, 60 to 80%, comes down to what is happening inside the body at the cellular level. And those cellular processes respond directly to daily habits, daily rhythms, and daily inputs. The person who looks 20 years younger than their age is not biologically lucky. They are biologically different. And the difference is happening at a level most people never hear explained. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you is rarely explained this clearly, and by the end of this video you will understand exactly what their bodies are doing that yours may not be doing yet. There is a concept in longevity research called biological age versus chronological age. Your chronological age is the number on your passport. Your biological age is what your cells are actually doing, how inflamed they are, how efficiently they produce energy, how quickly they repair damage, how fast their telomeres are shortening. The two numbers can diverge by 10, 15, even 20 years in either direction. Two people who are both 60 years old can have a biological age gap larger than a full generation. Same calendar, completely different bodies. And what separates them is not luck. It is a set of specific biological patterns that are largely within reach. Here is the first one. And it is the one almost nobody expects. Their cells clean house more often. Inside every cell in your body, there is a maintenance process called autophagy. The word comes from Greek. It means self-eating. And before that sounds alarming, here is what it actually is. Your cells accumulate damage over time. Worn-out proteins, broken bits of cellular machinery, molecules that have been twisted or damaged during their work and are now sitting inside the cell taking up space without doing anything useful. Autophagy is the process that finds this cellular junk, breaks it down, and recycles the parts into fresh building material. Think of it like a deep clean that happens inside every single cell in your body. In people who age slowly, this deep clean runs more frequently. Their cells are cleaner. The damage does not accumulate the way it does in the average person. And the reason is not that their cells are special. The reason is that they spend more time in the physiological states that trigger autophagy. Here is where it gets interesting. Autophagy ramps up when your cells sense mild, temporary stress, not severe stress. Mild, intermittent stress. A longer than usual gap between meals. A harder than usual walk uphill. A period of physical effort. A cold shower. Each of these sends a quiet signal to your cells that conditions are slightly challenging, and your cells respond by tightening up, cleaning out, and preparing for what comes next. People who age slowly live lives that naturally include these small stresses, gaps between meals, physical movement that genuinely challenges them, temperature variation. Their cells are constantly receiving the signal to clean up. The people whose biological age runs far behind their calendar age are almost always the ones whose cellular housekeeping has been running at a higher baseline for years. Not because they took a supplement, because they lived in a way that kept the cleaning system active. Wait, I need to pause here and ask you something directly. When was the last time you went more than 12 hours without eating? When was the last time you pushed yourself physically to the point where your breathing was noticeably elevated for more than 20 minutes? When was the last time your body experienced any genuine challenge, temperature, effort, hunger, without you immediately removing that challenge. Modern life has almost perfectly eliminated every signal that triggers cellular cleanup. Constant food, constant warmth, constant comfort, constant availability of quick energy. And the result, biologically, is cells that are running in an increasingly cluttered environment, accumulating damage faster than they can clear it. The practical habits that increase autophagy are simpler than most people realize. A 12 to 16-hour gap between your last meal at night and your first meal the next morning. Exercise that genuinely challenges you at least a few times per week. A cool sleep environment, brief exposure to temperature discomfort, a cold shower, time outdoors in cool weather. None of these require equipment. None require money. All of them send the same cellular signal: clean up, tighten up, prepare. Have you ever noticed that you feel sharper and cleaner after a period of not eating rather than worse? That clarity is your autophagy running at a higher rate, your cells briefly getting what they need to do their maintenance work. If you enjoy understanding the quiet science happening inside your body, subscribe. New videos every week. And if something in the last few minutes already made something click, tap the like button so more people find this. The second thing people who age slowly do differently has nothing to do with eating. It has to do with how they move, and more specifically, what pace they move at. Most people think about exercise in two categories: hard effort, running, intense gym sessions, high-intensity intervals, or easy movement, casual walking, light stretching. People who age well tend to do something that falls between these two, and it is the thing that produces the most dramatic effects on cellular health over decades. They move at a moderate, sustained pace for extended periods. Not hard, not easy. A pace where your breathing is noticeably elevated, your heart rate is comfortably raised, but you could still hold a conversation without gasping. A brisk uphill walk. A steady bike ride, an hour of active gardening, swimming laps at a comfortable, sustainable pace. Researchers call this Zone 2 movement. And what it does inside your cells is genuinely different from what harder or easier exercise produces. Here is the biology. Your cells have two main systems for producing energy. One is fast, used during intense short bursts of effort. It runs primarily on sugar. The other is slower, more sustainable, and runs primarily through your mitochondria, the tiny energy-producing structures inside your cells, using fat as fuel. Zone 2 movement specifically trains and develops the mitochondrial pathway. The more consistently you use it, the more mitochondria your cells build. The more mitochondria you have, the more efficiently your cells produce energy, the more cleanly they operate, and the less cellular damage they generate in the process. People who age slowly have cells with more mitochondria running more efficiently. Their energy is more stable. Their blood sugar is more even. Their metabolic flexibility, the ability to switch between burning fat and burning sugar depending on what's available, is dramatically better than average. Most modern adults have lost this flexibility entirely. Their bodies have been trained to run on quick sugar so consistently that they struggle to access fat as a fuel source. The result is energy that crashes between meals, persistent cravings for quick carbohydrates, and a metabolism that is increasingly inefficient at managing fuel. Zone 2 movement is how you rebuild that flexibility. 2 to 3 sessions per week, 45 to 60 minutes at a conversational pace. A brisk walk counts. A steady bike ride counts. The intensity is not the point. The duration in the right zone is the point. And here is the part that most people miss. Zone 2 produces almost no cortisol spike, no significant muscle damage, no recovery debt, which means you can do it most days of the week, feel better afterward rather than depleted, and accumulate the cellular benefits continuously. The people who age well often look like they're not really working out, because by conventional standards, they aren't. They're just moving steadily, regularly, at a pace their bodies find sustainable. And the compound effect on their cells over years is what produces the difference you see in the mirror. Now let's talk about something that will surprise most people. Because the third pattern is one that nobody expects when they first hear it. It's not what people who age slowly eat. It's when they eat it. Researchers who study populations with unusually slow biological aging, communities in Sardinia, Okinawa, parts of Costa Rica, consistently find something that has nothing to do with specific superfoods or strict diets. These people eat in a rhythm. Same meals at roughly the same times. Most food earlier in the day. A real gap between the last meal and bedtime, consistent enough that their bodies can predict when fuel is arriving. Here is why this matters at the cellular level. Every cell in your body runs on a clock. Not metaphorically, literally. Each cell contains genes that turn on and off on a roughly 24-hour cycle, governing different cellular activities at different times of day. Your liver has a clock. Your gut has a clock. Your pancreas, your muscles, even your skin cells run on local clocks that are supposed to stay synchronized with your central clock in the brain. The central clock gets its main signal from light. The local clocks, particularly in your digestive system and metabolism, get their main signal from when you eat. When you eat at consistent times, your local cellular clocks stay in phase with your central clock. Everything works together. The metabolic orchestra plays in tune. When your eating times shift dramatically from day to day, breakfast at 7 one morning, skipped the next, lunch at noon on weekdays and 3 p.m. on weekends, dinner anywhere from 6 to 10 p.m., your cellular clocks begin drifting out of sync with each other. Researchers call this metabolic jet lag, and it produces something specific. Low-grade inflammation, impaired blood sugar regulation, disrupted sleep quality, and over time, measurably accelerated biological aging. Most modern adults live in a state of chronic metabolic jet lag without realizing it. The fix is not a specific diet. The fix is regularity. A consistent breakfast time, a consistent dinner time, weekends that roughly resemble weekdays in terms of when meals happen, a clear gap, at least 2 hours, ideally 3, between the last meal and sleep. Their meals are not exotic, not dramatically restrictive, often unremarkable by modern standards. The biological advantage comes from the consistency of the rhythm, not the composition of the plate. Before I give you the full protocol, I need to tell you about the 2 internal systems that people who age slowly manage better than almost anyone else, because understanding these is what makes the protocol actually work. The first is their stress recovery system. People who age slowly do not experience less stress than you do. They experience the same amount, sometimes more. What they do differently is recover from it faster. Here is the mechanism. When you encounter a stressor, a difficult conversation, a deadline, a frustrating situation, your body activates its stress response. Cortisol rises, heart rate increases, blood pressure climbs, attention narrows. This is adaptive and necessary in short bursts. It is how your body handles challenges. The problem isn't the activation. The problem is the return to baseline. In most modern adults, cortisol stays slightly elevated long after the stressor is gone. The nervous system remains in a partially activated state. One stressor from the morning is still producing physiological effects by afternoon. Another stressor stacks on top. By evening, the body has never fully settled. The baseline has quietly shifted upward. And over years, that elevated baseline is one of the most consistent drivers of accelerated biological aging researchers have identified. People who age slowly return to baseline faster. Their stress response activates, does its job, and switches off cleanly. The cumulative exposure to stress hormones is dramatically lower, not because their lives are easier, but because their nervous systems reset between challenges. The practices that train this are consistent across research. Slow breathing, 6 breaths per minute for even 5 minutes a day, shifts nervous system balance measurably over weeks. Regular time outdoors, particularly in natural environments. Social connection that is genuine rather than performative. Physical movement at moderate intensity. A daily life that has margin, space between demands rather than a constant back-to-back chain of activation. The second internal system is social connection, and this is the finding that genuinely surprised researchers when it first emerged. Loneliness, measured as a subjective feeling, not as objective isolation, produces cellular changes comparable in their effects on inflammation and biological aging markers to smoking a significant number of cigarettes per day. The mechanism is real. Chronic loneliness keeps the body in a low-grade stress state, which elevates cortisol, increases systemic inflammation, and accelerates biological aging markers measurably. The inverse is equally true. People with strong, stable social connections, particularly face-to-face connections with people they don't have to perform for, show lower inflammation, better immune function, and slower cellular aging. The effect is large enough that some analyses place it alongside blood pressure and cholesterol as a predictor of long-term health outcomes. People who age slowly tend to have, often without trying, a handful of close relationships they maintain consistently. Regular shared meals, a community they belong to, spaces where they are known. The depth matters far more than the breadth. Now, the practical protocol. These are the specific habits that address all of the mechanisms above. Step 1. Create a 12 to 14 hour overnight eating gap at least 5 nights per week. Finish your last meal by 7 or 8 p.m. Don't eat again until 7 or 8 the following morning. No snacks, no sweetened drinks, water only. This consistently activates autophagy, resets your cellular clocks, and reduces the insulin exposure that suppresses cellular cleanup. The mistake most people make, they extend the gap too aggressively on day 1 and feel terrible, then quit. Start with 12 hours. Build to 14 over 2 to 3 weeks. Step 2. Add 2 to 3 Zone 2 movement sessions per week of 45 minutes each. Brisk walking, cycling, swimming, anything that elevates your breathing noticeably but still allows conversation. This builds mitochondrial capacity, improves metabolic flexibility, and reduces cortisol rather than adding to it. The mistake most people make, they push too hard because it doesn't feel like a real workout. Slow down. The zone matters more than the effort. Step 3. This is the one most people skip. Don't. Step 3. Anchor your meal times to a consistent daily rhythm. Breakfast within 30 minutes of the same time every morning. Dinner within 30 minutes of the same time every evening. Weekends matching weekdays within an hour. This keeps your cellular clocks synchronized and prevents metabolic jet lag. The mistake most people make, they're consistent on weekdays and completely abandon the rhythm on weekends. 2 days of clock drift is enough to disrupt the synchronization you spent 5 days building. Step 4. Protect a daily 10-minute nervous system reset. Slow breathing, 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out for 10 minutes. Outdoors, if possible. No screen, no stimulation. This is not meditation in the formal sense. It is a direct physiological input to your autonomic nervous system that measurably improves heart rate variability and stress recovery over weeks. The mistake most people make, they skip it when they're most stressed, which is exactly when it matters most. Step 5. Protect at least one genuine in-person social connection per week. A shared meal, a long conversation, time with someone you don't have to perform for. Not a phone call, not a text exchange. Face-to-face, present, unhurried. The biological effect of this on inflammation and stress hormones is measurable within weeks of consistent practice. Before you start, a warning. The most common mistake people make with everything in this video is trying to implement all 5 habits simultaneously. The usual result is overwhelm within 3 weeks and abandonment of all of them. Pick one. Build it for 6 to 8 weeks until it requires no thought. Then add the next one. The compounding of these habits across months and years is what produces the biological difference. Rushing the implementation undoes the compounding. One safety note. If you are managing diabetes, take blood pressure medication, or have a history of disordered eating, the eating window in step 1 requires a conversation with your doctor before you begin. Not because it is inherently dangerous, but because it interacts with medication timing and blood sugar management in ways that need individual guidance. Here is the larger picture I want you to hold. In my years of looking at this research, the people who maintained these patterns consistently were not the ones who looked younger at 60. They were the ones who were still cognitively sharp at 75, still physically independent at 80, still managing their own lives, their own homes, their own decisions, without the progressive loss of function that most people have simply accepted as inevitable. Biological aging is not a fixed track you're locked onto. It is a set of cellular processes that respond at any age to the inputs you provide. The inputs are not expensive. They are not complicated. They are consistent gaps, consistent movement, consistent rhythm, consistent recovery, and consistent connection. Your cells are waiting for these signals. They have been waiting for them your entire life. What surprised you most in this video? Which of these 5 habits is the one you're most out of alignment with right now? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. If you enjoy understanding the quiet science happening inside your body, subscribe for more. New videos every week. In the next video, we'll explore something even more fascinating. What happens inside your body in the first 30 days when you start giving it these signals, system by system, week by week. Your body is not failing you. It has been waiting for the right information. Now, you have it.